Sorry, if you have any questions, please feel free to send a speaker request and I would be happy to add. While we wait for people to come in, Dr. Sad, I had a question. So when you were talking about migration, obviously, of the Indus, once the rivers that they had settled down around, they dried up, you said that there was a movement towards down south. But do we know from history, like, were there any specific, like, because it was like one big land block, so were there any specific areas where there were more population groups living, or was it like just like in central sort of India, what we see central India now, or maybe like Gujarat or Maharashtra sort of areas, or was it?
Okay, so if we go to the point of Indus Valley itself, so Indus Valley cover now recently what we came to know that Indus Valley covers a very huge and broad geographical areas. As I told you, that there are certain towns even in Afghanistan that's known as Indus Peripheral Line, and up to Gujarat to certain area of Maharashtra was also covered in the Indus Valley civilization. So that's it seems that with the different ages and different time, like Harappa or like Mehergarh, different small colonies or federal states start developing that were doing their agriculture, that were doing their farming. There was a lot of trade, there was a lot of mixing, there was a lot of admixture that's going on. So definitely once that river beds dried up, they moved more towards the southern side or moves towards the downside. And as linguists and archaeological can shed a more light at how the movement took place and how it was happening there. But definitely there was a movement towards the southern side. Our modern DNA admixture told like that, and this is a way how this movement took place. But there are some maps that show us again a very relevant point I would like to add with your questions, that if we go to 2000 BCE, the southern peninsula didn't have any steppe's climes inside it. This is purely like a mixture of Eastern Iranian and ancient population that we say like a new client developed that we say ASI, Ancestral South India. So by 2000 BC, but later on there were huge admixture coming up from both three clients, Ancestral North Indian, Ancestral South Indian, and what we say Ancestral East Indians.
Thank you so much. We've got Navazish here. Navazish, please.
Yeah, hello. See, my question is that there was a time when Indus Valley people and the Aryans were living together. Like we have the evidence of fire altars, and Rigveda was just like about 1500 BC. So there must be a time where these Indus Valley people and Aryans were living together. And
yes.
And I want to emphasize on that time, that what happened during that time. And my second question is, like, there is this Genome India project happening over here.
Yeah.
So although the government is telling that it's about the health sector and agriculture sector, but do you think that this could be used as a point to proof that somebody is outside of India and someone is basically Indian, or someone is not Indian based on their DNA?
Nawasish bhai, I'm sure what I'm saying, the statement is very big. But as a medical doctor, as a history lover, or as a passionate learner of history, I would like to say I'm making a claim. Any human being or any South Asian, if you do a DNA, what I say, it's a mixture. So there is no point who is outsider and who is insider.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. If you brought a European inside here and you make a comparison with this, definitely there is a difference in their DNA. But what the South Asians who are living here for the centuries, they share a common admixtures. If you compare my admixture with my Jat brother, with my Rajput brothers, and it is inside fronted, we all share some sort of a different admixtures of the same ancestry.
So
there is no issue about that.
Yeah, so means and we do not have to worry about this GIB genome.
I don't know. Not at all. These all are propaganda techniques, not at all.
Okay, but just a point I want to make, that you were discussing about this linguistic thing. So there was this research paper or some article I was reading that there is some linguistic similarity between the Baluch language and the Tamil language.
Yes, very good point. You have raised it. I took it as a point for the talk. That's exactly a very, very excellent point.
Yes.
When we go to the Dravidian languages, there is a language spoken in a part of Balochistan known as Brohui language. and there is a language that is spoken in our part in Odisha region known as Kuruk language, Gondi language, Telugu language, Kannada language. These seems to be a little bit similar from an origin point of view, and the linguist seems to say that these all evolved from an ancestor language that's known as Proto-Dravidian language. But although these genetic research are mainly on the genetic, they still serve as evidence for the linguist. But this research didn't talk about any linguistic point. They just say that probably they try to connect it with the linguistic data.
Okay, and could you please share some light on the part where in Indus Valley and this Aryan people were living like together?
Oh, actually, the people from the what we again I would like to not like to use the term Aryan. I would like to say the literature word Yamnaya people, because Yamnaya is a term that's more scientific term used for these people. These people used to take a different routes. They expanded in the Europe, they expanded in the Central Asia, they expanded like when they tested some samples in Turan, as I told you. They take the different ages of Turanian specimens, that's covering almost 209 samples, they check it. That's from the BMAC region. And they found that before 2000 BC, there was no steppe sample. After 2000 BC, there is a quite good number of steppe sample. But then they reach up to the part of our North India, Northwest India, and they will see that the sample or the climb by 1700 BC or 1500 BC, almost half of the admixture in Northwest India coming up from Yamnaya people. As you go to the down south by that time, you will find the admixture is slowly decreasing, and if you go to the southern tip of peninsula, absent, almost absent. I'm talking about 3,500 years before, right now no. Talking about 3,500 years. But definitely there is a lot of mixture and churning. You know, like when you make a matha and dahi and put all that mixture and make a lassi. So we all are like a lassi or the mixture of these churnings.
Okay, so sorry if I'm taking some more time, but see in that book of Michael Woods, The India, he was focusing more on that prospect that South Indian are directly descended from Africa, and there is
Rajeshwari, today if we look, no, this is not a case. Yes, 15,000 years before, the first population or the early Indian who set the foot, they came up directly from Africa. Definitely every human came up from Africa.
Narmada, I think there was some name of Narmada Valley people, or I forgot the name.
But not now, you cannot claim anyone coming up from any single clan. They all are a mixture with the different proportions. Even now, there is one very, very important point coming up in your question. If you go on I don't want to go in the biological terms because some people didn't understand it. But if you look the admixture of South Asian population, the M mitochondrial haplogroup that came up from the female sides or the mother side, that is more belonging to our ancient roots. Like we say the ancient ancestral South Indian roots that were from the first group of humans that came up in India. So we belong, majority of 50% of the population belong to the M and different subtraits of M that is present in Aborigines, that is present in eastern part of the Asia. Probably this is a South Asian haplogroup. On the male side, when we see, we have a different sort of like a haplogroup, and each community represented the different haplogroups. So that clearly seems to show that there is a lot of admixtures, and we cannot get anyone specific as a direct descendant of people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nirvana. So we've got Prashant waiting first, and then we've got Johnny and Ismail. So if we can follow that order, Matt, you'll have to please wait because these guys have been waiting longer. So just bear with us. We'll come to each one of you. Prashant first.
Hi everyone. So my question is recently there have been a lot of archaeological excavations that have been happening in the southern part of India in Tamil Nadu, where there have been two civilizations, one on the Vaigai River and another on Anantapurane River, where the carbon dating dates back to 3,200 years old, which proves that the civilization is a contemporary of the Indus Valley civilization. And recently the carbon dating of that rice with soil by the Beta Analytics lab in Florida, right? So that also proves that same. So will this lead to much more interest in these excavations from the Western world, and will we find much more proper links between the Indus Valley civilization and the southern Indian civilization? So, what is your take on that? Just I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasan, for adding such a nice information. And definitely, there would be more research need to be done, and there is sort of a linking. As I told you, that agriculture was not established as before we thought, or before what archaeologists thought, that agriculture was started from Mesopotamia, and from there it is spread. But now the scientists look at a different take. They say that it was one of the earliest sites, but at different sites, the agriculture was started at different locations across the globe in the early Neolithic age. So most probably that's one of the extension, or probably the contemporary, or the linking. As I told you that before in the peninsula during the age of the hunter-gatherers, what they gave the term ancestral ancient South Indian. This is the only labels. Don't take it like a terminology. These are the labels used by the researchers for the convenience for the people to understand. Or I would like to say the early Indians were living in the peninsula, and definitely southern side of the peninsula was the place where the first early Indians used to arrive. So this might be a chance, if you are quite right. Maybe in the later days, some more research will explore more unfold, because this is a continuous process. What we know today, we didn't know 10 years before. So maybe some more things will reveal on.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Johnny, you can go in, please. And then after that, Ismail, and then Mas, please. Johnny, if you would want to turn on your speaker and ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the mic, sir. I want to ask a question about, you mentioned about the steppe DNA in the North Indians, and somewhere I read that Jats have the most steppe DNA in themselves. So if that is true, I want to know what does that mean?
Okay. First of all, there is many studies, innumerable genetic studies that has been done. Individual samples are available. If you go on GetMatch, that is a free access tool for an Harappan World project is inside it. They make a different projects, like for example, if I did my DNA test, because this is accessible only by the researchers. So some researchers from US, one of them is Zach, a colleague of Razib Khan, South Asian geneticist in US. So they make access to everyone. So you can access Indo-Harappan Valley project. And recently, I have a personal test of one of my Jat friend who is from Pakistan, and he is from Vadai Jat. The community of Vadai Jat is present in Sikh, Hindus, and Muslims, all three. And when we see the admixture, he carries South Indian admixture, he carries the Steppes admixture, he carries the European admixture. So this is how the admixtures are made up of what I said. So maybe in some individuals it is high, in some communities it is high before it was not, in some higher class of the communities or Brahmanic communities, some admixtures of steppes is a little bit high compared to the other, because of the evolution of the caste system that came up later on, 2000 years before. So it depends, vary from community to community and tribes to tribes. But in Jats, there is a quite good number of admixture from the different sources of population, and steppes is one of them, not majority of them, one of them. They also carry the South Indian, what we say the ancestral South Indian. They also carry the Eastern Iranian, that's the base of Indus Valley. They also carry the other proportions also.
Johnny, does that answer your question, please?
Ma'am, I wasn't able to learn, but I will check the recording.
Okay, sure. Ismail, you can go in, please. Ismail, if you're still here, then you can turn on your mic and ask your question, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, good evening. Thank you very much to Dr.
Sad.
Dr. Sad, who went and explained it then. First of all, there's I just wanted to sum up, and before I do go ahead, I need to give a disclosure, and that is, I'm based in London, and at a university there is a panel hearing on a complaint made by South Indian staff, saying that because he's a Dravidian and he's been targeted for racism by an North Indian, and those terminologies come up, but they are not, that important. But I thought of listening to this will provide a better insight. Now, having said this, I just wanted to conclude, just to sum up, if it's correct what I've understood from the Dr. San, is that Aryan, all over India and South Asia, there have been migrants. So basically to divide between Aryans and Dravidian is more of a colonial structure, and that has been debunked as on the basis of what the Dr. Saad has described. That's number one. Is this correct or not? So therefore, Dravidian term should no longer apply. Question number two is the linguistic traits, so the South Indian, North Indian, so the Indo-Aryan, Indo-European language structure, so North Indian, Bangladesh and Pakistan. They have the linguistic similarities and quite vast and different from the South Indian. So to what extent can linguistic traits play in terms of defining the biological past or former ancestral migration traits, to at least to some aspects? That's it.
Thank you for your wonderful question, amazing question. First of all, yes, to a certain extent we can say that it's a colonial construct. But before going to the colonial construct, the point that we added or we touch a little bit that system in the Vedic ages of the caste was developed. Definitely, these languages were not from the family of Indo-European languages or Indo-Aryan languages. So their language was separate. Though their culture was separate, though their languages were separate, but we find evidence of genetic churning or a mixture. That definitely happened before the creation of these silos of the caste and creeds. Yes, phenotypically, you will find the differences. As I said at one point, that belief about the Dravidian and Indo-Aryans or the North Indians, sometime in the villages of North India, if you compare the two communities or the two tribes or the two castes making up from the bedrock of these three ancient populations, the distance or the genetic distance between the two groups is up to the extent between Northern and Southern Europe. So your point is quite valid. Yes, this is partly the construct. Now we know from the latest research that these are not racial terms, but definitely there is a difference and there has been a sort of a augmentation, and that was exploited or much exaggerated or divided by a colonial authority. So we cannot blame 100% the colonial construct. This is point number one, what you ask as a question. About the point of the languages, definitely these languages and cultures and customs are the byproducts of these mixings and these migrations, and all these things happen. As you know, like for example, Urdu. Urdu is an Indo-Aryan group of language, but this language recently is tormented and this language is recently targeted. Why? Because its script is taken up from the Arabic or taken from left to right instead of right to left, or whatever we say, the classical Indian languages. We are speaking the same language in North Indian belt, but this is a very recent construct and there is a division. So in the same way, the Dravidian languages coming up from the different family, and till now the research is going on. What is a Proto-Dravidian language? Root may be the Elamite language that I told you, Eastern Iranian. This is one of the theories because these people are connected from that end. So this more research on the genetics will definitely give a way for the linguists to make more advanced research in this perspective.
Does that answer your question, Ismail?
More or less, yes. I probably need to do research. Just to last point.
Cutting my short, Ismail. Sorry, just giving you the idea that this is not unique only to India or South Asia. This was happening in every part of the globe. What's my point? That this migration is changing and construct. For example, you are living in the Europe. Let's just giving you an example from the European perspective. Now, if you take a European ancestry, you will find an average admixture in the Europeans is Anatolian farmers, the first farmers who started the farming there, European hunter-gatherers that dividing into Eastern and Western European hunter-gatherers, and again the same Yunai, again that's you used to term as Aryans. So this admixture varies at one place to other place. Sometimes there's a lot of genetic diversity between. We not like to say that all Europeans are same, all languages are same, but to a certain extent there is a diversity between North and South, East and West. But the bedrock of the pizza is common, base of the pizza is common. And then there is a chanting. What this example was used by Tony Joseph, one of the writers. You can read his book. That's an excellent book, The Early Indians, with the story of the South Asians, that published by Juggernaut.
Okay. So I guess the Dravidian people, who they say we stereotype that they are the natives of India, the South Indian, because they're dark color, with no offense intended. Is that's totally not correct?
At least that's what the research tells us, that the composition.
Yeah. Your voice got muffled. I didn't able to understand.
What I'm saying, so to the assumption that Dravidians are South Indians, they are more native to the region compared to the North Indian fair-looking skin. That's a totally
exactly. Yeah, when you go, yes, Ismail. The point is that the Dravidian is not a race. So it's a linguistic division, and yes, there is a linguistic division. But when you go on the racial admixture, the proportions varies and change. And unfortunately, I would like to say, any North Indian going to test, starting right from the Afghanistan, I'm saying, making a big statement and going up to the down. Everybody is carrying certain sort of genes, what Dravidians are carrying or what the South Indians are carrying. We have a mixture of them in our human genome. So this is something interesting or research that can connect us together as a humans, as a South Asians.
And last but not least, do we have a concept of Indian Aboriginals or native tribes, indigenous, like
that's my
Australia and North America? Do we have that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. According to the recent research, till now, what we find it out based on the genetic research, that yes, there is a lot of admixtures that happen in India, but if we go to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and some of the tribes, those who still going hunter-gatherings and they are not mixing with the other population, representing the maximum part of ancient ancestral South Indian component that came up as the early Indians, and they are somehow related to Aborigines of Australia. They have certain sort of connection and more similarity to the Aborigines of Australia.
Okay, thank you. If there's any further question, I will email you.
Sure, you can write us at tawarifwani@gmail.com. Or just you can take the spelling Tawarif.
So your Twitter profile, is your email on
Yeah, Twitter profile you can, yes. Yes, email, profile, whatever you have, you can ask the question, no problems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Dr. Sad, we've got Mr. Hassan here. Thank you, Ismail, for your time. Mr. Hassan, if you can turn on your speaker, please, and you can ask your question.
Thank you for giving me a mic. My question was regarding Nicobar Island and Aborigines, which has been partially answered in the last question. Can you please elaborate it a bit to Robert accent, please?
Sorry, what I am going to say that Andaman and Nicobarese Island, although they are also the byproduct of admixture, they didn't exactly replicate the ancient population because we cannot get the ancient populations right now, as I said at the start. But they have the maximum admixture coming up from ancestral ancient South Indian level, or the population that was the earliest Indians that arrived here out of Africa 40,000-50,000 before. And the same stock have a connection with the Aborigines of Australia. That was the point.
Thank you.
Are there any others who are interested in, who have a question, or if not, then
yes, we covered 1 hour session. We usually try to cover it within the time, and we have exceeded now 1 hour. So I think we can curtail it if there is no question, and just take home message that this come out of the stereotyping, and these things and these research are just to connect the humanity in a wonderful way and a wonderful manner, how human civilizations have been evolved, rather than to make the silos and making a chauvinism or aggression, because there is no pure race. So how you are going to claim that authority of one or other? That's the point.
Thank you, Dr. Sad. If you have like 5 more minutes, we've got one last speaker, a person who's requested to for a question. So if you've got 10 minutes more, I think we can cover this up quickly.
Yeah.
Mike, if you would want to.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to ask one question regarding the Aborigines tribes in Andaman. I think because of the Gondwana land, because in the past geographical period, the Australia continent and the subcontinent were part of one geographical plate. Maybe because of which the Aboriginal tribes in Andaman has the same racial composition which the Australian Aborigines have. And also, I would like to make one comment regarding the caste system. As what I have read from the books, basically, caste system wasn't that quite rigid. I think it has stemmed from the guild system of ancient India, which was a kind of a council of a certain group of people who used to follow same occupation. Like we read in the books, guilds of Chetty traders and various other people. So I think till the late Gupta period or later age of the Gupta period, there used to be quite significant admixturing between the various races, and I think afterwards it became quite difficult. And this is the thing which I would like to point out. Thank you, sir.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
You have made a great point. Exactly, I agree. And if you want to know more about all these connections in a more simple way, there is a beautiful National Geographic documentary, Biological Atom. You can just search it and you will find from out of Africa how they reached to Indian subcontinent, connecting to Aboriginal Australia. There's a lot of things that was discussed in that 50 minutes documentary. You can watch that. That's very beautiful. And about Indian context, you're absolutely right.
Nurul, please, sorry, we've lost Nurul. Khalida, if you want to go in, please.
Hello.
Hello, yes,
Yeah.
please.
It was a brilliant session, Dr. Rehan. I just wanted to add, because you had probably left these, some people claim from India that we have an out of India migration.
Yes. That. Thank you, thank you.
And I just wanted to add that we mean large scale migration of prehistoric India towards the west and spreading culture and language all the way from, say, Harappa to England and Harappa to Russia. Then there is not a shred of evidence, genetic or otherwise, to suggest that. It also contradicts the study's position that migration from the Central Asian steppe brought Indo-European language to India. After
That's exactly the point. Very good. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalid. We've got Zamindar here who's quickly, I think, wants to make a point.
Let me just quickly reflect on the Khalid Bhai's point that now recently, because I told you there is a certain sort of insecurity in our mindset when we talk about somebody is coming from outside. So we started reversing the proofs and evidence. For till now we have scientific evidence. So we started to say that the movement of Yamnaya, or what we say the Aryans, they don't say Yamnaya, the Aryans is from inside to outside India theory, and many archaeologists, historians like Professor Irfan Habib, Rumia Thapar, and many people, Razib Khan, the genetist from US, have written very detailed account on this and rebutting based on the scientific research that these theories didn't carry any credentials instead of just a propaganda tools.
Thank you so much.
This Rehan, just 1 minute. Sorry. This new study also established that Iranians arrived in India before agriculture. Origin herding had begun anywhere in the world. In other words, these migrants were likely to have been hunter-gatherers, which means they did not bring any knowledge of agriculture.
Sure. Agriculture
and you also pointed out about the 12 DNA samples were collected. One from Hisar, Haryana, 8 from eastern Iran, and 3 from Turkmenistan. So these 12 ancient DNA samples, they were all same. Exactly, they matched same.
In that 523 samples or specimens, when we talk about individual time of Indus Valley, that before 2000 BC, exactly the people of Indus Valley. And what Dr. Khalid Bhai has said, that Indus Valley people used to make a trade with their neighboring civilizations. So definitely Harappa has their influence with the Mesopotamia and some defect. It's mostly of outward migration, that's the point.
Thank you.
Thank you both. We've got last person, Seema, here. So if Seema would want to go in, and then we can conclude it, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this brilliant session, Dr. Rehan. I just wanted, I was listening to your comment about Urdu being more moving from towards the right than right to the left, and towards Arabization. What I would like to point to you is Urdu is originally spoken in Pakistan, and those lands is more Arabized than the Hindustani Urdu that you are talking about. So I think it is very important for you to distinguish between Hindustani Urdu or Hindustani language versus Urdu, which is very much Arabized and Persianized. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Yes, you are right that in our part it's more like a mixture with these local languages, and in Pakistan this phenomena is more Arabized. We used to talk and exchange the ideas many times on Twitter on this. But what's my point I want to clarify here? When we talk about in the linguistic aspect, and we are talking about in a timeline of thousands of the years, so I was not thinking about this perspective. What you added here just now is just a point from the recent days, but why I was talking about is about the family from which the Urdu belongs. It didn't belong to the Semitic group of languages, not to the Aryan group of languages or European group of languages. That was the point. That's the linguist used to categorize it. Definitely, if you look the Persian is also in the European group of language, not a Semitic group. Thank you, Seema.
I just want one more point, Dr. Rehan, that the present Persian language, that is the Farsi that is spoken now, is more Arabized than the Indo-Aryan.
So, I mean, you have a cultural context, the people word admixed, and you have a roots of the word coming from different language.
Right.
So the idea is that the languages and people evolve like this. This is the idea. This is all
right,
the
right. So to say that it is Indo-Aryan and not Semitic is a little bit controversial, because for them to maintain the linguistics from the culture from before, they have to insert the pa, cha, all those things that are not in the Semitic religion languages. So I think we have to make that distinction. The distinction between Indo-Aryan languages and the Semitic languages are very blurry when you talk about Persia or Urdu and other languages. I just want to make that. Thank you so much.
The Persians, whatever interacted with the Persians, they are really proud of having this Indo-Aryan term used with their language. I don't know, they carry the chauvinism with it. They don't want it to say that we have a Semitic roots. They say there is some admixture, but they clearly and loudly say that we are not Arabized, and though our language has been Arabized. So these are other classes. The debate will go in a very different direction. So yes, you are right. I agree with your comment.
You're right about that. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sad, if you would want to close it or give us some closing comments, and then we can wrap it up.
Sure. So just a take-home message, try to understand ourselves, try to look how the Almighty God has created us as human beings. And human beings have so much common with each other from the very first human, because the genome sequence has been done. So at one point we have a very much distinction in phenotypic appearances.